young mathematician. How was your first assessment on mathematics? I hope you did incredibly well. Having said that, I want to welcome you to another exciting, fascinating and interesting class on mathematics. Today we shall be treating a very interesting topic, Pythagoras Theorem. This is a theorem that was postulated by a famous scientist called Pythagoras, hence the name. I know you will want to ask me, why this theorem? Why did Pythagoras choose to postulate this theory? Now I'll be answering your question using an animated clip. I want you to sit back and view this video because you will get all your answers right there. View, and I'll be right back with you after this section.
Oh.
See that the young boy wanted to escape, and the only way he could escape is to find the shortest distance between himself and the exit route. Thank God Pythagoras was able to help him out. Now we are going to note that Pythagoras theorem was given to find the shortest distance between the two 90-degree inclined points. Now when you talk about 90 degree, we are talking about a right angled triangle or two lines at right angle. Now the shortest distance between these two lines gives us our longest line. You can see now this is the shortest distance between the two lines which are perpendicular to each other. Now the distance between them, that is the shortest distance, gives us our longest line in a right angle triangle. I'm going to be naming this side for you as we progress on this teaching. Now the theorem improper. For a right angle triangle, the side that is opposite the longest side, remember the longest side is the shortest distance between the two lines that are perpendicular to each other. Now you discover that the line that is opposite the hypotenuse right away, you've seen it, this line is called the opposite, while the other line where the 90 degrees and the other angle lies is the adjacent. Now a very important one, the longest line which we have been talking about. This line joins the two perpendicular lines together, therefore finding the shortest distance between them. This line is called the hypotenuse. Alright. Now I'm going to be telling you how this theorem came about. According to Pythagoras, Pythagoras discovered that a shape called square, I believe you know how the shape square look like. Now a square is a plane shape that have all sides equal. Now Pythagoras said that this shape can fit into each side of a right angle triangle. Now, if for example the square at the opposite is 3 units in each length and the square at the adjacent is 4 units at each side. Now it said that this square at the opposite and the square at the adjacent can both fit into the hypotenuse. That is to say, the sum of the square at the opposite and the adjacent is equals to the square that make up the hypotenuse. Now we're going to be using a diagram to illustrate this. You can see the square. Good. Now the square fits into the hypotenuse. This is because the square at the hypotenuse is the sum total of the square at the opposite and the square at the adjacent. This is to say, when you're looking for hypotenuse, hypotenuse square equals to opposite square plus adjacent square. Now you discover that if you have our 3 become 3 square opposite plus 4 square adjacent, 9, 3 square is 9 and 4 square is 16. 9 plus 6 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. So that gives us a summary of what Pythagoras theorem look like. We'll continue this with another illustration. Yes, we are moving on. From what we can see so far, we've discovered that Pythagoras was able to tell us that the square at the opposite and the square at the adjacent can both fit into the square at the hypotenuse. That is to say, if we have side A at the opposite and side B at the adjacent, and we have side C at the hypotenuse, that is to say, according to Pythagoras theorem, our equation becomes a square. Remember, we are talking about square at each side, become a square plus b square plus a square plus b square is equals to c square. Now, this equation is a sum total of what Pythagoras was talking about. Now, I want you to take this equation very importantly. Write it down. For any right angle triangle, to find the side or the unknown side, you must use this equation. Opposite square plus adjacent square is equals to hypotenuse square. This will take us to our worked example. Example number 1 says find the longest side of a right angle triangle if its other two sides are 8 cm and 6 cm respectively. Now when you solve, you have your right angled triangle. Remember, we are looking for the longest side. Now 8 cm for one of the sides, you can call that side hypotenuse, and 6 for the adjacent. Now we're looking for the longest side, we can call it x. And when you solve using Pythagoras Theorem, we are going to have a square, that's opposite square, plus adjacent square is equals to hypotenuse square. Now a square means 8 times 8. 8 multiplied by 8 is 64, plus 6 square is mean 6 times 6. 6 times 6 is 36 equals to s square. 64 plus 36 gives us 100 equals to s square. Now we are looking for x, which is the unknown side for the hypotenuse. Now to cancel out this square, remember you were told under cube and cube root that to cancel out a square, you root both sides. Please, if you have not gone through the page of cube and cube root, I want you to go back there and study the topic. From there, you are going to have a clear picture of what I'm saying. Now here, we are going to cancel out the square. So we are going to root both sides. And rooting both sides, we have this, we have this. Now from this root, the square root cancel square. Okay? Now leaving my x behind. So now I have x is equals to, what is the square root of 100? Square root means what number will multiply itself to give you that number. So therefore, what is the square root of 100? What number will multiply itself to give you 100? And the answer is 10. Because 10 times 10 is 100. So therefore, the square root of 100 is 10. So our longest side, which is the hypotenuse, is 10 centimeters. That will take us to example 2. Example 2 is a very technical question. I'm using this as an example so that in case you see this kind of question another day, you will be able to try and solve it. Now, this question says find the breadth of a rectangle if its length is 4 mm and diameter is 5 mm. Now we're talking about a rectangle, so I draw a rectangle. My rectangle, the length is the longest side, which is 4 mm. Okay? And my breadth is unknown. You see, find the breadth, so we don't have the breadth, so I can call my breadth y. And I have my diagonal. What is the diagonal of a plane shape? It's the shortest distance between 2 points of the plane shape. So the shortest distance of a rectangle is this line, so which is the diagonal. And my diagonal is 5 mm. Now, from this diagram, I can bring out my right angle triangle. So I'm going to carve my right angle triangle out of this, because you can discover that we have two triangles or two right angle triangle inside this rectangle, and the two right angle triangle are equal, so I will bring one out. Remember that the length is 4 millimeters, so we become my adjacent in my right angle triangle, and my breadth will become my opposite because the both sides are equal. Now while the diagonal becomes my hypotenuse, which is 5 millimeters. So I'm going to solve for the opposite now using Pythagoras Theorem. Remember that opposite square, which is y, plus adjacent square, will become 4 square, is equals to my hypotenuse square, which is 5 square. Y square is an alphabet, so unknown, so remain y square, plus 4 square, which is 4 times 4, which is 16, equals to 5 square, which is 5 times 5, is equal to 25. In this kind of equation, we have a figure and a figure, so we're going to move 16 to meet 25. That means I'm going to collect like terms, because y is an alphabet, so y as an alphabet cannot stay with 16, which is a figure, so I have to move my figure to meet the other figure. So my 16 will move across the equals to, and when it's moving, remember that I told you that anytime you are moving a term across the equals to, the sign changes. So my positive sign is going to change to negative, which gives me y equals to 25 minus 16. So y squared is equals to 25 minus 16 gives you 9. Now we want y because that is our unknown breadth. So we are going to root both sides. Remember I told you to remove the square, you root both sides. When you root both sides, square root cancels square, which leaves y. So therefore, what number will multiply itself to give you 9? The answer is 3, because 3 times 3 will give you 9. So the square root of 9 is 3. So we have 3 millimeters, which is our opposite, and it becomes our unknown breadth. So the answer to our question is 3 millimeters. Now this same way, you are going to solve for adjacent. You are giving adjacent and you are giving hypotenuse. You don't have opposite, solve it like this. If you are giving opposite and you have your hypotenuse and now you don't have your adjacent, you see solve it the same way I did, and I know it's going to be a very interesting solution for you. Please, I want you to go back and digest this topic, after which you go over to your fun game, which is important. You play your fun game and your interactive assessment. Thereafter, you'll be allowed to assess your assignment. Till we meet again in our next class. Bye for now.